Welcome in. It's Clippers Talk. I'm Adam Osland. Day 123, 123 days straight for you guys here on Clippers Talk. We are on a streak, a little bit of one. The Clippers kind of going the other way on a losing streak right now. For more on that, let's bring in our friend, an NBA analyst, and I think one of the best out there. He is Jamal Christopher. He is one of my North Stars when it comes to basketball conversations. Jamal, good to have you back here on Clippers Talk.
I'm definitely not an analyst.
Hey, that's how I see it. We can be
Nah,
anything now. There's platforms all over the place.
that is very
We can
true.
start our own shows. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. I'm good though, bro. Like, I'm good. How are you? That is much more of like a pertinent question because you said how many days in a row?
We on 123, I think.
And it feels like it. It feels like it. Like every day, no matter what time of the day, no matter what time of the night, I see that you have something going on. It's like you are the hardest working man that's related to like Clippers basketball right now, bro. Like it's
Uh,
crazy. Very
I'm
crazy.
I'm something. I just got hopefully a healthy obsession. Hopefully it's not, some nights I go to bed, I'm like, oh, I ain't ready to do this again tomorrow. But then by the time I sleep and wake up, I'm like, let's go. I'm ready to talk about the Clippers. Honestly, every day I get excited all over again. So
That's real love. That's real love, and I can
yeah.
relate to it. Maybe not to that extent, but like I can relate to it. I love talking Clippers. Yeah.
Not 123 days straight, but yeah.
Nah.
That's just crazy. All
Nah.
right. Let's talk about and start things off before we get to the Clippers because a trade just went down with the Golden State Warriors getting Jimmy
Hmm.
Butler from the Miami Heat. Your initial impressions of just how much better Golden State got, if at all, because you look at the numbers. Andrew Wiggins is putting up
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler's numbers with 3-point shooting this season. He has bought in. It's his best year since they won the championship, and they had to give him a first round pick for him, and they had to
Yep.
sign Jimmy to that exorbitant contract of $60 million a year over the next 2 years. So, where do you stand on this?
Um. So okay. So for starters, um, I think Jimmy Butler is really good. Um,
But
Even this year, I was just looking at it on the way home. Actually, he was trolling this year, and he was still like top 30 in like EPM. Like he can impact a game in ways that just many can't. Um, I do think that Golden State, above all else, needed a talent upgrade. Like just in terms of like, if you are seriously going to compete and you're not moving off of Steph Curry, like you're trying to take this thing as far as you can, you got to bring in some more talent. And I think Jimmy Butler satisfies that. Um, in terms of how much better it makes them, I don't look at them with Jimmy Butler as better than any of the current top six in the West. Um, I think obviously, and the talk around the NBA right now is the Lakers and Luka, and
we'll get to it.
I initially thought the Lakers would kind of fall back, and I think that's still on the table. But like Luka and LeBron is just like really tough. You look at the Clippers, and I know the Clippers are on a losing streak, but I'd still like them to be a team to finish top six in the West as long as they get healthy or remain healthy. And then outside of that, it's like the Warriors aren't better than like the Grizzlies or the Rockets or the Thunder or the Nuggets. So yeah, I think for them, you want to make a real push towards landing one of the, the not just the play in, but like 7 or 8. If they can get 7 or 8 and get a home game in the play in with Jimmy, then you get Jimmy and Steph in the playoffs potentially, and then you can kind of see where things go. But like I don't look at it as like they just got better by a lot. But it does satisfy a talent upgrade for sure.
Yeah, I could see how if you get in the play in and you're 7 or 8, so you got double elimination on your side,
Hmm.
you win that game. Maybe you play Houston in the first round and they don't fear
Yeah,
them as much because they got the experience on their side. They could even say that against OKC. I think OKC's talent would overwhelm them,
bro.
but
They've beaten Houston. I gotta look at it, but like they've beaten Houston either like 12 or 13 times in a row, or maybe Houston has beat them this year, but like they've got a real string of games where they've pretty much handled Houston, and
It's like how the Clippers used to do the Lakers.
You know what I was thinking about the other night? I was like, man, I miss those days because if you go back last year, we're 1-1 this year. They beat us 3 out of 4 times last year.
So 4 of the last 5.
Yeah. So
after the Clippers won 11 straight.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where I think, and I kind of shared this. I think the Warriors are a little too far away from this, but like for the Clippers, I'm not necessarily mad if we're 6th and we have to go against like the Rockets or the Grizzlies in the first round. That's not the worst scenario. And I say that to say because like you brought up the Rockets, we were talking about Rockets Warriors, but yeah, I like where we're at position wise. I think we're getting saved a little bit right now because the teams behind us are kind of struggling as well. And we definitely have to start playing better. But yeah, I include the Clippers in that group of teams where just the Warriors got Jimmy, but I still don't look at them as a top 6 team in the West.
Yeah, they're still a piece away to me. In fact, our guy Ricky G, who's coming on the show on Friday after the trade deadline.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
Ricky G, the OG coach.
You guys had smoke a few times, bro.
A few times. we're like Draymond and Jordan Poole. No.
Yeah.
He's coming on Friday. I thought he put it best in a tweet. Ricky G said like all they're doing is bringing in a guy, but they're still a guy away. Like they have to lose a guy they need to bring in that guy. Yeah. And that's basically what happened. Like they still need an Andrew Wiggins. They still need somebody like that.
Yes and no. I mean, it's all relative to the goals, right?
But you know what theirs is.
I know what they're putting out there. Right? I know what they're putting out there. Because like a lot of people,
they're appeasing fans right now, but they're doing something.
Right. So now if the Warriors, we tried, we went for Jimmy, we lose in the play-in or we lose in the first round, it's a better sell for the fan base. But like if you man to man, if you were to ask the Warriors front office, do they expect this team to contend for a championship? They're gonna probably tell you no. Like you look at that core between Dre and Steph and Jimmy and just like the ages there. That feels brutal. Steph has not been encouraging in terms of his play. I know a lot of people have been saying like Steph needs help, but I'm like, like he has to hold up his end as well. And
I did have a hot take that Norman Powell's had a better season than him. I did throw that out there, but you pushed back in the appropriate way. I think what you said is accurate.
I mean, to be fair, I was at the game, so I didn't hear this, but I saw it on Twitter that Stan Van Gundy agreed with you. During the broadcast, he said that Norm has been the second best guard in the West outside of Shea. And then I saw the clip. He said it.
Okay.
And I was like,
well, his brother is working for the Clips now, but still.
Yeah, no, Norm has been awesome. I wouldn't have even been mad at that. I think that's a legitimate conversation. Who's been better out of Steph and Norm? And on one end, that kind of gives you a window into how great Norm has been. On the other side of it, it kind of lets you know that Steph is not to the level that you would need him to be if you're seriously talking about contention. But yeah, I mean, Norm, I wouldn't have been mad at it. Norm was the only player that started the game yesterday that didn't look like he was 40 years old with him and DJ. So
yeah. All right, let's shift a little bit. We'll get back to some of the big trades, but since we've kind of let everything lead us back towards the Clippers with our compass here, our NBA compass, everything connects back to them. You don't seem to be having some crisis of faith after the last couple of games, even with the way Coach Lue came out after last night, even with how Kawhi and James Harden have looked the last 2 nights. Like they've looked bad out there. But they haven't rocked the foundation of where you're at with this Clippers team, still feeling like, hey, we get in, healthy Kawhi, we can make a run.
Yeah, because for me personally, there have been points in the season where I thought of us being better than what we are right now. There have been points where I thought we were worse. But in this summer, I said our range was 6 through 10, meaning I had us at a playing team, but like a real chance to break into that top six, right? Um, and took we pretty much are that, and at least right now. And so I'm not gonna say this is expected. We have kind of outperformed expectations to the point where I would be disappointed if we finished in the play-in. I would be very disappointed at this point. But we are more or less, we aren't above a bad 3 game stretch, right? James Harden hasn't made shots all year. Kawhi Leonard is still not playing 30 minutes. So we aren't above having a night where we just don't have it. James Harden is like, I mean, what, 35, 36? Like, he's not above having bad stretches throughout a season. And so with the roster, the way it's constructed, I just, not to say I'm not mad. Like, watching that yesterday I was furious because especially a Laker team that they were extremely undermanned. The Luka press conference was earlier that day. Like, it was a lot going on for them. And for them to come out on a road, legitimate road game, for them to come out and led by a 40-year-old LeBron James, it is LeBron, but he's still 40. For him to come out and lead the Lakers and for them to have that much more pop than us when we were at home, that was disappointing and that was telling, and it continued a trend that's been going on for the last 3 games. So I was definitely frustrated, and it is something that we have to rectify because, again, we aren't above falling backwards into the play. And even though I have us, being top 6, but I just can't get too upset to that extent because I know who we are. And if Kawhi Leonard isn't going to play 30, 32 minutes, if the back end of the roster is going to be the way it is, I think Law put out a tweet that our Sixers, not 6, but like we play like 8 guys, and some of our guys should be 9 to 10 in the rotation instead of like 7 to 8 type guys.
Yeah.
And just, I look at our roster and I'm like, the results kind of make sense. But yeah,
by the way,
I'm not too mad at it.
Coming into this season, you're saying 6 through 10, and Jericho Sims is going to Milwaukee, by the way, as part of
right now
the Bucks Washington Wizards trade. I guess he's being included.
Oh, wow.
His name was brought up a little bit earlier today. He makes $2 million. I did the emoji eyes when I heard that he could be available just because, I don't know, we haven't seen much of Drew Eubanks yet. And what I saw last year and the year before, I'm not expecting more than a little bit better than Mo Bamba, and better in ways I think that they can really use him better because he's not going to try to pick and pop or anything like that. It's just going to be a rim runner. He fits this team well. But yeah, I was looking at Jericho Sims there for a second. But you brought up expectations coming into the season. How much of that was grounded in, them being 6 through 10? Because I felt the same way. But I also was like, if Kawhi plays 50 games, because he's not going to be able to get to 50 games now. Like, there's 32 games left in the season, and he's only played 12. He's not going to end up there. So it kind of makes it even more impressive where they're at. I mean, they have the number 2 defense in the league, and we talk about the last 3 games, and Coach Lou brought it up, how he's been pissed about the last 3 games, including a victory over Charlotte, and how there's been slippage. So I went back the last 6. The last 6 games, their defense is 21st. But on the season, they're still second. They're still second. That tells you how good they've been for so long.
Yeah, I was talking with my brother about that, where, we have a large enough sample size at this point to know who they are, right? And they like, I have them in that range, but they have definitely been better than I thought. And at this point, it's not even better than what I thought. This is who they are. And while they aren't above slippage, that's the reason why you can't really, in my opinion, you can't really get up in arms about it, because this is a team that's shown you that they're going to guard, and they have enough, especially with that starting five, to kind of rectify things and get things going in the right direction pretty soon. I'm really not worried about it. I do want to finish out this homestand without another loss. That would be very encouraging. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty confident in our group as long as we stay healthy. The biggest thing, honestly, and I said it at halftime of yesterday's game, Norm is great, Zoo is great, but this is only going to go where Kawhi and James takes it. And that's where everything starts. And Kawhi Leonard, he does a lot of things great. To me, his number one skill when it comes to being a max player is he just doesn't miss. He makes shots. He is one of the greatest shot makers of all time. I think Coach Bud, I think he was the one that said it before we played Phoenix about that's one of like Kawhi Leonard. You just put him out there and he just doesn't make mistakes and he doesn't miss shots. And so Kawhi Leonard, the last two games, has missed shots. And when he's missing shots, he is a much different player from an effectiveness level and from an impact level as it pertains to the Clippers. So I don't even foresee that lasting too much. James Harden, I'm still waiting for his shot to come along, but it's been better since Kawhi has been in the lineup. But yeah, those two, man, when they be better, will be better, and I think they will.
By the way, the Knicks got back to Lon Wright in the deal for Jericho Sims. Just keep you guys updated in the chat as we are live here on Clippers Talk. It's Jamal Christopher with me here once again. I say once again, but it's been a while. It's been since last summer, but we talk all the time on X, and I'm typically looking for guidance with a lot of his tweets on issues like we're dealing with right now. Always. So you're not overly concerned about Kawhi Leonard when it comes to movement. You're just seeing him miss shots right now. It's not a lift thing. It's just 2 bad games in a row, and it's not overly concerning.
No. And part of that is because I've watched every game he's played for the last like 6 years. So you kind of know the ebbs and flows when it comes to Kawhi. Like, you can kind of tell the way he starts a game when you could be like, this may be one of those nights. Or like, one game when we played the Nets, right, at Intuit, and like the first 2 plays, he's moving like he's 5 years younger. He's doing in and out, pop, and he didn't move like that yesterday. And some nights it's gonna be like that for him. So on those nights, if he's not making shots, it could be rough. But as he gets more healthy and as he plays more, those nights don't happen as much. And yeah, to me, this may be irrational confidence in Kawhi, but I just don't worry about him. My biggest worry with him is him staying on the floor. If he's staying on the floor and he's healthy, by the time we reach the finish line, I think we'll be happy with where we're at as a team, and we'll be happy with where we're at with his performance. I've said it, and I keep saying it, as long as Kawhi Leonard is healthy and as long as we as a group are healthy come April, let's roll. And unfortunately, some of the ways we're going to have to get to that point, it's going to suck, right? Like, some games we are going to lose in part because Kawhi Leonard can't play 25 minutes. I mean, not 25, but like 35 minutes. He can't play those big, like, you would like for him to kind of, we struggled yesterday, put him out there, see if he can find a groove to kind of spearhead a comeback. But like, we're not chasing wins in that fashion right now. So there will be games where he's going to play within the minutes restriction, and it may cost us and it may not. But you just got to hope that in the end, we're going to like the results. And I think we will.
What did you make of his comment post-game last night talking about how he said, quote, "I feel like our second team has to get better. The start of that second quarter, it's kind of been like that since I've been back." Some people were using that as, imagine if Paul George said something like this. You guys would criticize him so much. I think he's kind of including himself there as being part of the problem.
So, well, number one, Paul George. I don't know why people even mention him. Like he's
False equivalency.
come on, man. I don't want to be disrespectful when it comes to Paul George. He's on the Sixers. I wish him well, but like, there's a certain thing called grace, and we give Kawhi grace because we know what he's done, what he's capable of doing. I can make the argument that Kawhi Leonard in his short return has been better than Paul George has been this season. Like, let's not even go there. Like, yeah. But those comments by Kawhi were definitely wrong. Definitely wrong. He said something of, if I remember it right, he talked about the bench. The game was over before the bench started getting in the game, in my opinion, because the way he and James Harden, their disposition to start the game last night completely set the tone for the rest of the game. Just not enough force, not enough activity, not enough aggression. These guys started the game yesterday feeling and looking like they were 45 years old. So I'm not really interested in hearing that. He's right in the big picture that outside of our starting unit, as the season has went on, it's become a struggle. But last night in particular, that was not the case.
And I
that
think
was a team-wide thing. But yeah, the starters started the game off and they were terrible. Like what?
No, and you're completely right about that. Part of this is also, I think he was being pressed about what they can get better at. It didn't just come out of nowhere unsolicited, or Kawhi was like going out of his way to say something. I think he was trying to find just something that they can do better because he was being asked questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it starts with those two. It always starts with those two. It has to. And for the most part, they've been really good. I looked up the numbers a little bit earlier today, and they still have, like, when Kawhi is on the floor, an offensive rating of 120 after 12 games and a defensive rating of like 104. Like they're a plus 15 net rating.
As long as they are healthy, again, it's all relative to your expectations. Am I saying the Clippers as of today are going to win the championship? I'm not saying that. But I am also telling you that me personally, I'm not overly concerned with their recent play because of things like what you just mentioned. There's just a growing sample size with Kawhi in the lineup that suggests this is a really good basketball team who's also old. So there will be nights where they just don't have it that night. But yeah, I just can't be overly concerned. And as long as Kawhi is healthy and our guys remain healthy, I think we'll be good.
How are you feeling about the bench? Because bench scoring, it has been up and down a lot this season. Lately, it's been especially down. They're still rolling with KPJ. We're 50 games in. I made the point on a show 2 days ago that if Terrence Mann is not going to be able to get significant minutes on this team, why would you not try to move him for somebody like Robert Williams, even though he's injured all the time? It's like, well, when he's healthy, he's going to be playing. When Terrence Mann is healthy, I don't know if he can crack the rotation right now on this team when the rest of them are healthy. So I think there's a real decision to be made there with Terrence Mann because they're not going away from KPJ at this point, right? Like, I thought, if it was me, I'd just have Terrence Mann and Chris Dunn be the guys manning the backcourt with the second unit and call it a day. But they're going in a different direction. So realistically, what can they do here?
Yeah, I mean, Ty Lue throughout the years really values that type of play when it comes to KPJ, right? Like KPJ will. I'm in favor of. I'm not a KPJ fan. Like I've tried, but the dude is a walking headache, and it's a roller coaster. But he's had his moments this year where he'll make a play, and you're like, okay, how many players on this roster can make that play off the bounce and create their own shot? It's stuff like that is why the Clippers feel like they can't go away from him. Especially
he's the ultimate. Leonard, just when I thought I was out, he pulled me back in. Time, he has a play like that.
Every time he plays what I would say a ridiculously difficult brand of basketball to live off of. Like he's not talented. I don't know if this makes sense, but like he's not good enough to play the way he plays, like consistently. but he has a skill set that not many players on this roster have. So I don't agree with it, but I get it. When it comes to Terrence Mann, though, I just get really disappointed. I think there's been an opportunity for him to make an imprint on that second unit, and the development just hasn't been there. I think you can make the argument that I would if Kawhi is going to stagger and be with the second unit, I'd rather have Terrence Mann there instead of KPJ. But Terrence Mann isn't giving you anything. Amir Coffey has had a career year. I'm a big Amir fan. I know a lot of people on Twitter like have things to say when it comes to Amir Coffey, but he's been shooting lights out, and oftentimes off the bench, he's, in my opinion, one of the more stable guys that we can go to off of the bench, along with like Chris Dunn. But yeah, Chris Dunn, Amir. After that, it gets thin pretty fast, man, and that is something that you are afraid of when it comes to a team that's as old as we are, particularly with like our best players. So yeah, it's a problem. It's definitely a problem. It's a problem that come playoff time is not as big of a problem because you're only going to be playing 7 or 8 guys anyway. But you do need those inning eaters. You do need guys to get you to the finish line. And my brother brought up this point. What if guys like Chris Dunn and Amir Coffey, especially Chris Dunn, who started shooting the ball pretty bad before he got hurt? What if Amir Coffey starts crashing down to earth? Then you really are like, yeah, we're really thin. There's really not nowhere else to go to. So yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's definitely one of the weaker spots of the team.
So Chris Dunn is 1 for his last 21 from 3.
Oh my God, dude. It feels worse, dude.
Well, I got something worse for you.
Okay.
I can make it worse right now. You want to feel worse?
Let's go, man. It's already bad.
The Clippers as a team, the last 15 games are 25th in 3-point shooting. They're at 33.7% over their last 15 games from 3. They are 8-7 over that time. But basically, with the defense over the last 6 games being 21st, and that was what was saving them when shots weren't falling. Now it's not. They got to start to fall eventually here.
Yeah. Because you look around the roster and I didn't know that, but like if you look, you can kind of quickly see how that goes, right? Like Zoo isn't taking threes. DJ was struggling for a while, although as of late he started to make shots. He actually made some shots yesterday. Yeah. But side note, that was one of the things that kind of messed up our offense during the Laker game. I mean, LeBron, they would just put LeBron on DJ and DJ and Chris Dunn and just roam. I mean, they did not respect their shooting at all. But DJ has started to make shots as of late. For a while, him and Norm were like the only people keeping us in it yesterday. But yeah, before this little recent stretch for Derrick Jones Jr., he was struggling. Chris Dunn was struggling. From 3, that's kind of like the one missing thing with Kawhi Leonard since he's been back. He hasn't consistently made shots from distance. James Harden hasn't consistently made shots all year. Terrence Mann hasn't been making shots. So you can get to that point pretty quickly where you're like, man, like, because like we can talk about, and again, I do believe in our defense. And I think our defense is going to regain form, and that's going to be the reason why we finish top 6. But man, shot making, make shots. Like that is, at the end of the day, something that you cannot get around. And I keep waiting for our all-star. And I don't want to sound like I'm bagging on him. James Harden has been terrific this year for us. But like the shot making, the shot making, making shots is something that you need in spots other than Norman Powell. You know what I mean? So I didn't know that, but like you can definitely see pretty quickly how that can be a thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit shocking, a little bit alarming, but then you go through the roster and with how guys have been playing this season, and after that quick start from Chris Dunn and DJ from the outside, things have cratered. And if Terrence Mann, who got bumped out of the starting lineup early, isn't doing much from three, isn't giving you much on the offensive end, like Amir's been good, as you mentioned there. If things go wrong or the sideways with Amir, if his shooting falls off, then you're really in trouble. Then, like, that's why. So let me ask you: they bring in Drew Eubanks, they bring in Patty Mills. I don't expect Patty Mills to play much at all. Last night he did because they were getting smoked. He could be a buyout guy. Like he could get bought out by the Clippers over the next 16 hours or whatever it is till the trade deadline if they pick up somebody. Do you think they need more help in the front court still? Or do you think they need some juice, some pop, some on-ball creation, and a guy who can knock down shots in the second unit?
I definitely would lean towards some front court help. The backup five has just been a position of weakness for so long. I definitely would lean more there. I don't know what the path would be to replacing Kevin Porter Jr. Because we do need guys with more pop and just flat out making shots. I do think as the season goes on, I'm going to trust that James Harden is going to find some level. And Kawhi Leonard, when he plays more, that means he is going to make more shots. And so as long as Norm doesn't fall off, like I think we'll be okay. Like I said, Derrick Jones Jr., if I'm not mistaken, as of late, he is trending up with a shot as well. So I think we'll be okay. But the backup five and in general, just the front court beyond Zoo is worrisome. Is it a fatal flaw?
That's my question.
That's a discussion. That is a real discussion.
I think it could be.
It definitely could be. It definitely could be. More so than like the backcourt help. Like I think we have enough between Harden, Amir, Kawhi. We've got enough there. We've got enough there. Could it be better? Yes. But in the front court, I mean, some of the lineups that Ty Lue has put out because he doesn't trust what's beyond there. Some of those lineups, like I go back to the Celtics game, if I'm not mistaken. Terrence Mann at the 5. It's just been like some stuff where you're just like, wow, like that. Our front court is bad. It's bad, man. It's bad. So it definitely can be a fatal flaw for sure.
I just keep thinking about this nightmare scenario. Kawhi is healthy. Kawhi is running on all cylinders. Kawhi is good to go. You're in a playoff series, and you're that piece away because you didn't expect Kawhi to be able to stay healthy. What if this is the year he is healthy, and because you didn't go in for that extra move because you were doubting him staying healthy, and that becomes the issue. It goes the other way for once on this Clippers team because before they're just missing Kawhi. What if they have Kawhi? What if they're good, but they're missing that other piece? Because if they don't bring anyone in the front court, that has a cascading effect. That affects so many different things because Ivica Zubac could then wear down if he's having to play too many minutes, or they're going to small ball too much when they shouldn't be. Batum has to play much more than he should. And I think Batum could be really key in the playoffs. I think you need to save him as much as possible during the regular season because to me, what everybody's crying about with the power forward position, and I understand it to a degree, but to me, a lot of that could be remedied against certain teams in the playoffs if you just start Batum with the 4. Like I think that's their kind of their ace in the hole. Like they could start Batum with the 4, slide Kawhi down to the 3, and do it that way in the playoffs against certain teams. But he needs to be fresh. He needs to have the juice. He needs to be like he was for France in the Olympics.
Yeah, and part of that is getting to the finish line in one piece. And if your goal is to have Batum fresh for the playoffs, then we're gonna have to. There are gonna be games where he just isn't gonna play a ton. I mean, we need help. We need help. So kind of semi-related. Did you see his wife? When she
Yeah.
tweeted the eyes.
Oh,
What does
I
she know? You
responded
know?
to it.
Oh yeah. I was like,
She's done it a couple times.
yeah. I'm like, okay. Don't play with my emotions. But yeah, no. A lot of the problems could be remedied if Batum could just play like 30 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? Like I mean, that's a lot, but like I'm just saying if he could play more, like
Yeah.
yeah, because he's as much of a connector as you're gonna find. I'm a huge fan of his, always has been, always will be. And I think he's gonna play a vital role for us come playoff time. But we gotta get there. We gotta get there in one piece. So
Yeah, we love the Batums, and I would be shocked if he was moved at the trade deadline after they just brought them back. I can't see that happening. But if I were to say you can give up Terrence Mann and their last second round pick here to bring in Robert Williams, would you do it?
I wouldn't think about it because so a lot of our moves are like, do you believe that we can, if we're healthy, how much do you believe in this group? And I've seen enough out of the Clippers in conjunction with the rest of the West that, hey, like I think this team can win a couple of rounds. Like if Kawhi is healthy, and if we, like you said earlier, right? If we're operating, what if this is the year that Kawhi is healthy? And I think Law talks about it all the time. You can't build a team and think like, oh, this player, he may not be hurt. Da, 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 da. No, like you have to build out your team the best way that you can. Injuries are a part of the game. And so there is a world where we're going to get to the playoffs and Kawhi Leonard is going to be healthy. And I've seen enough already to know that if Kawhi Leonard is healthy, I'm rolling. I like my chances. So you want to put yourself in position to take advantage of that. And all in all, you just want to build the best team that you possibly can. So when that moment of truth comes and you're in the playoffs and Zoo is in early foul trouble, or Zoo is nicked up a little bit, and you have somewhere where you can go. So yeah, I would do it. I would do something like that for sure.
Something like Terrence Mann for Clint Capella?
I'm not as big of a fan as Clint as I used to be, but he's serviceable. I mean, anybody that we could play behind Zoo would be of benefit. So yeah, I'll sign me up for that too.
And maybe Drew Eubanks will prove us all wrong, and he'll look
I
great
doubt it.
and have a moment. Come on.
I
All I
doubt it.
want, just be better than Mo Bamba was. But all I wanted from Mo Bamba was to be better than
All I
Mason
wanted from Mo
Plumlee
Bamba
was.
was I just wanted him to set a screen. You know what I mean? Like hit somebody and set a screen. And yeah, man.
It's been like that with him. I don't
Yeah.
understand it. Any other major concerns with this team right now, or anybody on your wish list that's realistic that you could see them getting in the next 16 hours or so?
In terms of that, like I'm the wrong guy to ask. I don't know who's realistic and who's not.
The chat will tell you.
Okay. Please.
I'm just playing.
Because like there are a lot of more educated people when it comes to that. But I mean, like I said, front court help would do wonders, and again, like health. I also so I think we have one foot in for this season, and we're also looking towards the future as a franchise. Lawrence Frank on the telecast earlier this season, like a couple of weeks ago, kind of hinted at we have a plan for the long term, and so I don't fully believe that while we've over exceeded expectations, I don't think we've done enough to where we're like, okay, let's throw whatever we need to do to field the best team we can possible right now. Let's do it. And it's like, I don't think they are going to interrupt their future plans for a team that's sixth right now in the West. But which is part of why I said 6 through 10 actually, because we're not like I even kind of threw out there like what are the odds that we can get in on this Jimmy Butler stuff? You know what I mean? I don't know how realistic it was or anything like that, but like are we sure we're doing everything that we can to build the best team possible to compete in the playoffs? I'm not sure about that. So yeah, more than anything else, health, Kawhi gets more reps. And then hopefully by the end of the year, he's still in one piece. We are still above the play-in. And yeah, I like my odds if we're going into the Toyota Center or going into Memphis for game one. So yeah, I mean, you got to stay healthy. That's it.
I agree with you. I don't think they're willing to reinvest if that means sacrificing their future at all. No. They'll do anything that doesn't sacrifice their future. I brought up bringing in Colin Sexton before because it's like, well, he's somebody that can be part of your future and help your present. You know, guys like that, I don't think they'd have a problem bringing in. But those guys can be hard to get. It's not that simple.
Especially because he's playing well. Yeah. Colin Sexton is playing well. He's not playing bad enough. So.
No. Let's go outside the Clippers now. I don't want to go here, but it's relevant. The Clippers just played them last night, and it sounds like Luka could be playing on Saturday for the Lakers. How do you think this came about? How do you think some people are going conspiracy theory with it? Collusion, Adam Silver needs the Lakers to be relevant to the nth degree to make sure the league overall has enough eyeballs to it. I don't think any of that stuff's the case. I'm coming from the perspective of just they grew to hate Luka Doncic in Dallas. At least one guy did, the guy who matters, and Nico Harrison, their GM, to the point they were willing to trade him. And he also happened to love Anthony Davis at the same time. And that's how you end up with a deal like this. Where are you coming from?
So when a deal is this seismic, there's a lot of things at play. So, because it happened days ago now, so I've had some time to like sit on it. And number one, yes, I have no doubt that Nico is infatuated with Anthony Davis, right? The issue is the reports, everything that continues to come out about why this deal was made, it just doesn't make any sense. So like, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but the idea, like Windhorst said, they are on Kyrie's timeline and they are trying to win now. That makes zero sense. Like that makes zero sense. If you are trying to win now, you don't trade away the third best player in the league that you just went to the finals with. That makes zero sense. I don't understand it. And then you trade away Anthony Davis is an all-world two-way guy. Luka doesn't play defense. But I keep telling people offense and defense are not of equal value. Luka Doncic is better than Anthony Davis. He's a better player. And not only that, he is 25 years old.
And they had one of the best defenses in the league because you can surround those guys with dudes to help them. They had one of the best defenses in the league last year with him and Kyrie starting. You can insulate guys. You can protect them.
Bro, and then you get to the worst part about it. Like, if you get to the point where you just feel like, okay, we took this as far as we're going to take it with Luka. We think he has a lot of Embiid in him from the way he carries himself, his diet, his conditioning, and this is just only going to get worse. So we're going to get out ahead of this and we're going to move off of him. That's, in my opinion, extremely stupid, but that is within your right. The idea that you don't get back for a player he might be top 30 to 35 all time right now already.
I'm with you.
And you essentially, relatively speaking, you didn't get anything back for him. You could have got the biggest haul in NBA history.
Do you buy into if they had made it known to other teams that he was available and then somehow it gets back to Luka. Then Luka does what De'Aaron Fox did and say, well, I'm only going to this team. Therefore, you're not going to get the bidding war you were looking for because all the other teams are like, oh, well, he ain't going to re-sign with us, so we're out.
Maybe, but like you're at that point, even if that were to happen in that scenario, I still think some team might take a chance on a talent that great. Like, look, you would still get more than what they got. Like, I don't want to believe collusion is at play, but like that makes zero sense. Like none. Like, so to me, I am, and this is crazy too, because I don't think they're completely off base when it comes to Luka and his habits. Like, I do believe that his injury history is something to watch. I'm not even saying like they're wrong for that.
No, I agree with you. I think there's a world where he has a very short career.
And like, it's crazy. We were talking about this maybe like a year ago where I said, I'm like, man, what if when you look at the way Luka is physically, he may be 25 years old, but like as a basketball player, he's been playing pro since he was like 13. He doesn't prioritize his conditioning and his physical fitness the way he should. He may be an old, like 25. Like his prime may not be what people think it is. That is me thinking of it from the Mavericks standpoint. Again, if you believe that, you still should prioritize getting as much as you can for a player that good.
Yeah.
The fact that you didn't, it just lets me know at the very least you weren't all the way operating in good faith. It's impossible, because then you say, I want to build a defensive team. We're trying to win now. And then I look up and it's like, well, you traded away your best player and you're in the ninth. You're in ninth right now. There's a lot of people out here who are saying, like, can the Mavericks be contenders and da-da-da. It's like, yo, they're ninth. Like, they need other teams ahead of them to start losing. Otherwise, they may not even make the playoffs. And when you look at, there's just nothing in NBA history where you can compare to where you're trading away a 25-year-old that great for, and this is why I hate it for Anthony Davis, because it sounds like the world, myself included, is kind of bagging on him. But really, like, he's a phenomenal talent. But he's 32. You don't trade for a worse player who's also 7 years older and then say we're doing it because we're trying to win the championship now, when you just came off of the finals with the 25. Oh my God, bro.
Do you think there's anything to the heliocentric basketball and them saying he has a fatal flaw? You can't win this way. This is what a lot of people believe with James Harden. I think Luka's closer to LeBron James than James Harden in a lot of ways. But do you think that's a real argument, that's a real conversation you have to have about Luka Doncic if he can only get you so far? Because they did get smoked against Boston. And I think you believe, like I do, they're getting beat in the first round if Kawhi's healthy. They're not even making that.
Justin and I argue with that back and forth, and I'm just like, dude, they are very clearly they are not making the finals last year, and they're not getting out of the first round if Kawhi was healthy. That was almost going 7 without Kawhi, and with 13 being an imbecile. But what I would say is, we brought up the point, and Trae Young is involved in this too, where they traded away Luka Doncic. Trae Young would have been traded if he had a market as well. It feels like the NBA as a whole may be going away from that archetype of like the point guard who just dominates the ball, doesn't play defense. And I think there's some truth to it. Like, if you look at Luka Doncic, they call him just an incredible floor raiser, like an incredible playmaker. And it's like, how many times in the Mavericks in Luka's tenure have they finished top 4 in the West? maybe the first Western Conference Finals year. I don't even think. I think that's the only one. Out of like 6 or 7 years, they've been top 4 one time. It was the year where they lost to the Warriors in the conference finals, I think.
Right, 2022.
And if you look at the last like 3-4 years, or I'll do the last 3, they traded for Kyrie, missed the playoffs entirely, right? And then last year, they were in the play-in again. They made a move at the deadline that kind of like they rode that wave to the finals, but really they rode that wave to the first round where they got lucky with Kawhi Leonard, and they would have lost in the first round again. So this is me saying that I don't agree with moving off of Luka Doncic at all. There's no scenario where I agree with moving off of a 25-year-old legend, right? But I do understand where the detractions come from and where the Maverick personnel may not be as enthused about Luka as the rest of the world is. To me, though, that is a very small part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Why? There are 28 other teams that would have given you the farm for Luka Doncic. And you said, no, I just want 32-year-old Anthony Davis to pair him with 31-year-old Kyrie Irving. And we're trying to win the championship. What?
I would say even if Luka Doncic's leg fell off tomorrow, I would still say, Nico Harrison, that was poor asset management. You still could have gotten more for him at the time that you traded him.
Or everyone knows that, especially a player of Luka's caliber, you want him locked down. Just give him the supermax and then move him in. You would have even more leverage. And it's just, there's so many, and you know it too, because that's why everybody thought Shams was hacked, or Shams, I should say. Everyone thought Shams was hacked. I saw MPJ, his statement about it. There was just no one has even came out and defended it one bit. No one in basketball circles, not one person. If you can see it, send it to me. I have not seen one person that came out and said, I understand this move. This is a good move. In fact, every single person I've seen has said Nico Harrison is on drugs and he should be drug tested. And it's just like mini rant, but like, them dudes up the street, man, I can't stand it. They just fall backwards into, they've been run amok. They have been terrible when it comes to running a basketball team, and you just end up with 25-year-old Luka Doncic because, I joked about it, but I'll say it, does Nico and Pelinka have a romantic relationship we don't know about or something? Like there's no explanation for that, bro. There's not one that, if you think about it, you sit around and you think about it, there's not one explanation that makes real sense other than you wanted to do your boy a solid. And I don't want to come to that point. But they said Pelinka talked Nico Harrison
into not giving him the other first.
Like, what? This is crazy. So
I can't give you the other first. You just told me how much he's been injured lately, and on these calf injuries going on. Like,
Luka could tear his Achilles, and in my opinion, he flirted with that this year. He could tear his Achilles, and I still wouldn't do it. Like, there's just, I don't know, bro. There's just way better. There's just, in short, there's just much more efficient and better routes to go if you were truly done with Luka and you wanted to get out of the Luka business. It makes no sense, but
it seems vindictive and cutting off your nose to spite your face. That's what it looks like. We're going to take away the Supermax from him. He reportedly just bought a house here. This is the perfect time to take him out and show him that you don't run things here. We're shipping you out. That's what it looks like to me. Now, we got some breaking news here. Jamal Christopher is with us here on Clippers Talk, as Chris Haynes just said New Orleans Pelicans are in advanced discussions to trade Brandon Ingram to the Toronto Raptors. Now, there were reports of this a little bit earlier today, some murmurs out there that Toronto might be able to get him for some expirings because he has to be paid after this season. So nobody is willing to deal with it because you're going to end up paying him 150 plus million. Who's going to do it? I guess the Raptors are going to take that chance. Looks like it. So I'd say that's the guy that does interest me because he's still 27. Like, he still has more to his game. If he just took more threes, we'd look at him as a different player. Like, that's all you have to do. Just take more threes, dude.
Yeah. I get it from the Raptors' point too. Like, you guys, they aren't getting people that want to come play for the Raptors. Like, guys that are all-star level talent. So, like, you kind of got to take a gamble. I'm not as enthused about Brandon Ingram. I think, although he's only 27, I think he is who he is at this point. I think he had a window where it looked like he could potentially be taking a leap. I thought when they made the playoffs that one year against Phoenix, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the playing game we had against Brandon Ingram. In that first quarter, he looked like Michael Jordan. That was crazy. And he put the fear of God in me.
First quarter Brandon Ingram against the Clippers is an all-time player.
Right? Like, yeah, man. He's one of them ones. But now that's interesting. And that is another name on the move for what I would say is like the craziest trade deadline in NBA history. This has been ridiculous. I don't recall this many all NBA and all-star guys on the move like this. So I don't anticipate Brandon Ingram doing much with the Raptors. I don't anticipate that union amounting to much, but it's a talent that in the Raptors case, I get the gamble.
Before we get out of here, Jamal, I want to ask you about San Antonio acquiring De'Aaron Fox. They ended up winning tonight late. Fox blew by his man, missed the layup, but Wemby was there for the putback, and then he hit a free throw, intentionally missed one. Your guy, Ice Trey, missed a half-court shot to win it. He's had enough of those this year already, all right?
Right.
But I'm from Sacktown. I think the Kings absolutely fumbled the bag with the way they handled everything with De'Aaron Fox, who is an absolute pro. The only question I have about De'Aaron Fox is where you rank a guy like that, because I want to say he's top 20, but he definitely has flaws to his game, and sometimes I'm not sure I can get there. A couple of years ago, it seemed obvious when they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
But now, he's not a great three-point shooter. Does it matter as much when you're playing with Wemby? Like, I think, honestly, for how little the Kings got for him, they got the Spurs 2027 first-round pick. They got Minnesota's 2031 first-round pick out of it. They got Zach LaVine, who I do like, and I don't think they have a steep drop-off talent-wise from who they are this season. But losing a 27-year-old in De'Aaron Fox like this and not getting at least, I don't know, Castle back or Devin Vassell or anybody, the Spurs look to me like they're set up like OKC now, where they have this huge window where they can win it because they can still go out and make another move. They got a ton of picks.
Yeah. They're doing what they're supposed to do when you land a talent like Wemby. I fall where you do when it comes to evaluating D Fox. I was higher on him a few years ago than I am now. I just don't believe a ton in his ability to lift the team as a point guard. And the shooting is worrisome to me. But he's really good. And if Wemby continues to develop and ends up the player that a lot of people think he can be, yeah, it'll work. I mean, it's Wemby. Fox could be more than good. A lot of people believe in Castle. They've got some pieces, man. And I said it, they're like a year away from like actually being in conversations. But yeah, if Wemby is who we all think he can be, I like pairing Fox with him. I think it's going to be interesting. They started Chris Paul and D Fox together today. long term going forward for the rest of the year, if they are going to make a push, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, are they in the plan or are they outside of it now?
They're like a game or two out of it right now.
Yeah. So like, I think going forward, well, I'm looking at the Suns and the Thunder. The Suns lost again, so that should help them. Um,
The Suns lost again. By the way, guys, there's 3
well, they're
minutes left
losing
in the
again, I
third.
should say.
No, I know,
Yeah,
but you're right. They
yeah.
lost. It's over. KD's out with the ankle injury, but he's going to stay there, apparently, reports are saying.
Yeah, and they're a dumpster fire. And I revel in the Suns being buns. I don't like the Suns. Shout out to the people I follow who I mess with that are Suns fans, but I don't mess with the Suns. I don't like Kevin Durant. So I get real joy that out of the fact that they have 3 guys, 3 max players. One of them being top whatever. He was on the couch with LeBron and Steph all summer, Olympics, but somehow he can't, with Devin Booker, he can't be a playing team. And I could get on the rant about Durant and the Suns, but what I was saying was it'll be interesting as the Spurs make this push to like get in at least a play-in. Are they going to stick with Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox as the starting backcourt? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I would want De'Aaron Fox to have the ball in his hands as much as possible. I don't know about splitting that with Chris Paul, but no, Chris Paul is a high IQ player.
I mean, at this point, at most, Chris Paul's playing 1 more year with them anyways. Like, it's not a long-term thing. But before we get out of here, let's go down a rabbit hole of hatred here. You brought up this player's name 2 different times so far, and I've seen some of your tweets. Paul George, man. What's going on in Philly with Paul George, man? You had the rap. You had the Kendrick Meet the Georges rap.
Yeah. That was crazy. I still remember that day, man. Yeah, I mean, Paul George last season, when you look on, he had a really good season playing next to James Harden, playing next to Kawhi Leonard. But when you look under the hood and you looked at some of his like metrics, when you talk about like finishing at the rim, drives per game, yeah, you saw some real red flags. And yeah, Paul George to me is at an age, and especially with his injury history, he's at an age where, like I always say, any year can be the year, right? Like LeBron is at that age where obviously him, but like any year can be like, oh shit, like like this is bad. But I think this is the year for Paul George. I think the Clippers not letting him walk, but letting him walk, is going to continue to age well. That is a guy that I always say, one of the things I compare is like him and Norm this season. And like, I think Norm is averaging like 24, 23 a game. Paul George did that a few times, but if you watch every game, the way they get to those averages is just different, right? Like Paul George will score 40 one night. He may score 10 points the next night. Norm is around 23 every single night. And that is much more of a competent scorer. I often said, like, what if Paul George just didn't play in the first round last year? Even with no Kawhi, what if Paul George just didn't play and we just gave Norm all the shots? Like, you know what I mean?
I hadn't thought about that. I haven't thought about that. Yeah.
Shout out to get Paul George game 4 though. Game 4, Paul George first half, that was incredible.
First half and 1-3 in the second half.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, he's the only player remaining from his draft class in the NBA. He was not above having a season like this.
I just never thought the rest of the team would be in a situation like this either. Like they'd be able to protect Paul George from having to do too much. And now that hasn't happened at all. So he's gotten completely exposed.
The biggest thing obviously is Embiid, right? Like even Philly maxed Paul George out, but it's like, if Embiid can't play, is Paul George still a $200 million player, how much money he made? Like, no, he's not. he is on a max contract because if you put him next to Maxey and Embiid, you have a better version of like Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
Right. But I said this before the season started that I've watched Paul George every game for like the last 5 years. This is a guy who, it's funny. That's why when he said on his podcast, like he wants to go somewhere where he can play the right way. And I'm just like, so you're going to leave an incredible playmaker in James Harden and go to Maxey, who he's not the greatest playmaker. And then everything revolves around Embiid. So I said that Paul George is a guy that he can easily get lost. Right, even if Embiid is not there, he can get lost. Like you'll look up and it's like, why does he only have 7 shots? But if Maxey is scoring 28 a night and he's shooting, and when Embiid is in the mode, like Embiid is the focus, Paul George can definitely get lost. And so, yeah, I didn't love the fit. I get it, but I didn't love the fit, and yeah, it's obviously a worst case scenario type of thing over there. But yeah, bro, like it's not, he's not like that. And I always tell people, and I compared it to the Luka Doncic situation. Not that obviously I don't advocate for trading for Luka. I still think that's the worst move in sports history, not just basketball history. I think it's the worst move in sports history. But if you are somewhere for 5 years, and the team that you're on says, no, we're good. We've seen you every day for 5 years. We're good. That always makes me go, well, what do you know that we don't know, right? Like I think Bill Simmons kind of said that about Paul George. He was like, well, these guys have been with him. They've acquiesced to him. And there's a half decade with this guy, and they are content with just letting him go, right? To me, that is a huge red flag. And sure enough, you kind of see why the Clippers were fine with letting go. Like, you know, we're fine with letting Norman Powell do his best Paul George impression, and we'll be all right. Like, come playoff time, we couldn't put you on Luka. We couldn't put you on Kyrie. We didn't know if you were going to score 20 points in a game. So, like, what are you really good for besides a name, you know? So, yeah, the hate watch has been, I mean, on a different level. It's gotten to the point where it's not even like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh,
I feel bad.
Paul George scored 10 points again. Like, oh, man, like soccer, you know, like. But I would feel a bit more remorseful if he didn't go out the way that he did.
Yeah.
Some of the things that he said, some of the things that Dallas said, just not the best way to go out for a franchise and a fan base that really rooted for you. Like, I can speak for myself. Like, I fought on Twitter. I got on Twitter and defended this man in battles where I knew, like, deep down, I knew, I'm like, man, like, you know, like Devin Booker is averaging 26 a game, and I'm trying to rationalize how you're better than him. And, like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And, you know, just being a Paul George fan. And I'm still a big fan of his game.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know, when someone says certain things and moves a certain way, it allows you to pull the curtain back. And now I can actually, like, look at it without blinders on. And it's like, yeah, you know, you're not like that. And the last thing I'll say is, like, my rule of thumb, you know, Paul George has averaged 25 plus a game one time in his entire career, once. It's funny. Every time I tweet that, everybody, like, will reply to me and they're like, no way. Or they're like, okay, I got to go look this up. And it's like, no, it's true. Like, this guy has never averaged 25 a game except that 1 year in 2019 in OKC. So I say that to say, you know, my rule of thumb would be, I'm not maxing a player that can't average 25 points a game. There's no big three that I'm putting together that can contend for a championship if that guy can't average 25 a game. Not that he's going to come in and average 25 a game, but, like, that raises real questions to me because volume scoring matters. That matters.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we are this year where we're at, because Norman Powell is going to give you at least 24 a night. some nights, like I remember the first time we were in Denver this year, and sometimes you just need Norm to go 20 and a quarter. Like, let's go. Like one of those moments, in my opinion, was like last night against the Lakers, where like we're in a rut. We need our best player to get buckets. You got to make shots. And you can't rely on Paul George to do that. That is a problem because he's making $200 million. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. They have definitely entered into the territory of like, oh, you don't want to play them in the first round. Like, they're going to be in the play-in, and I'm sure the people at the top don't want to see the Sixers, if they're healthy, come playoff time. It's like, dude, like, all right, no, it's not happening that way. No one is scared of Paul George and Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid is healthy, if Paul George is healthy, no one is scared of that. They'll flame out. They're not winning the championship this year, and they will be stuck all summer. Like, you kind of saw the Warriors tapping in on Paul George already. They'll be trying to figure out how to get off of Paul George's contract. Shout out to the Clippers for the foresight, because we knew.
Hey, they dodged a bullet that
big time
went into Paul George's foot that was shot from a gun in his own hand as he shot himself in the foot there. I wish him nothing but the best. I do feel kind of bad. They're out of the play-in right now. They're a game back of even being in the play-in. It's been that bad. And I do think he's a nice guy, but he said some things at the end that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and as did some guys in his crew. So I kind of wanted to get the update there, since you did have the rap parody song. Before we get out of here with Jamal Christopher, I do want to remind you guys, Clippers Talk is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest way to play fantasy sports, and it's available in over 30 states. All you got to do is pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats or least favorite player stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money. Make picks, win money, and I got a free promo code for you guys that gives new users a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. All you do is use the promo code LAC. You can find it and the referral link in the description below. In this very episode, you go to underdogfantasy.com. Then you can check out, Boston's taking on Dallas tomorrow. Higher or lower than 25.5 points for Jason Tatum, or higher or lower than 22.5 points for Jaylen Brown. You pick one. It is that easy. Underdog Fantasy. Make picks, win money. He is the great Jamal Christopher. Jamal, where can people find you? And I guess I owe you some money, because some people have been donating here in the chat for this episode. Right. So we'll split it, man. I'll at least buy you a drink.
Hey, man, I'll take it. I don't know. I'm not looking to be found. Jam Christopher, JamChristopher on Twitter. Jamal Christopher, JamalChristopher on Instagram. And same on TikTok. I kind of post sometimes when I'm going to the game, add into it, but yeah, I'm not.
I see you in those seats. I see you with some nice seats, man. There. My goodness.
Every now and then, man. Every now and then, man.
Jamal Christopher, brother of Justin Wilson. We try to get him on tonight. We're going to make that happen at some point. Oh, come on. That's your bro.
I don't know who that is.
I mean, he's pretty close to you. A lot of different ways. One of these days, we'll have you both on just to confirm that they aren't the same guy. At LA Clippers Film is where you find him. But yeah, I want to have the brothers. I want to call it the Brothers Rim instead of the Brothers Grimm when you guys come on. That'll be a special episode.
I'm down. We don't live in the same spot, so sometimes it's hard to like get a hold of each other, especially during the week. But yeah, I'm down for sure.
Fair enough. We'll work on that in the future. I'll be back tomorrow morning, guys. Of course, we'll have you covered for hours before 12 o'clock. When the trade deadline is up here on the Pacific Coast. We'll have you covered here at Clippers Talk on the YouTube side. Please subscribe, like this episode, and show love to Jamal Christopher for coming on Clippers Talk once again today. For Jamal, I'm Adam Osland. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Yes, sir.